first thing Harmon mentioned is the lawsuits against doctors Moline and Emery just for publishing case reports in the medical literature of people who have no other known asbestos exposure and who developed mesothelioma and who were long-time users of talcum powders. And this constitutes a new low in the asbestos litigation in the United States. I mean, Dr. Selikoff, I don't think, ever got sued for publishing in the medical and scientific literature, however much his publications caused aggravation by the affected industries. So this is really disturbing, and you can't really counter-sue because that just opens up the door for more legal discovery, depositions, motions that need to be answered. It's a kind of an endless torment for the poor doctors who are being harassed by these companies. But I really think there's a special award that ought to go to Johnson & Johnson for corporate crime, going after Jackie Moline and starting this latest crusade of harassing doctors. On the other hand, from what I gather, it looks as if the doctors who've been sued are represented by good lawyers, and this may all ultimately be thrown out of the courts. Let's hope so by late this year or early next year.
Thank you, Barry. Did you have something you wanted to add, Dr. Oliver?
Just a quick question for Barry. So the lawyers in the U.S. who have been sued, Jackie and Dr. Emery, they are represented by good attorneys, but who's paying for those attorneys? Is it the institutions for which they were working when they published the article, or are the doctors themselves responsible?
Yeah, the lawyers representing these doctors in defending against these lawsuits are not typical lawyers from the asbestos litigation, but there are people who've been contacted because, people who knew lawyers who would be willing to do this kind of work. The payment for the lawyers is being done by Dr. Moline's medical institution, as I understand, and the medical group of Dr. Emery. There are also some doctors who are retired, Dr. Maddox, and one other, and I think they are paying their own legal fees, but they are joined in these actions just for publishing, and what now amounts to several hundred cases of mesothelioma in individuals where all but maybe a handful have no other identifiable history of asbestos exposure and who were regular users of talcum powder products. Arthur?
Barry's correct. Jackie, I believe, is being represented by Northwell because she's an employee there, but Dr. Emery and Dr. Maddox were in a private practice, pathology practice, and they've already survived one lawsuit. They've just been hit with another one. The first one cost them up into the 6 figures, is my understanding. And then later today, we're going to hear from Brad Black, and there's that whole situation out of Libby where the local railroad has sued the card clinic, which, talk about a new low. I mean, there should be a special place in Hades for folks like that. And of course, a railroad owned by Warren Buffett.
I feel like this is going to be a good board conversation later. Please give a big round. Oh, I'm sorry. Linda, go ahead.
I have one comment, because I really want to draw attention to lawyers like Harmander and law firms like Leyday that will stand up and give you the time, because this is years and years to bring this stuff to so-called justice. And the new trend, the trend used to be junk science. They'd publish their silly reports, and then it would be used, as you know, Dr. Frank. Now it's attack and derail. And it's only if people like Harminder and us, we can all stand up together and then out them as we go forward. So thank you for coming to Washington, D.C. for a few hours from London, because your work matters. Thank you.